Apple is suffering from a disease that is not clearly visible from the outside, a silent killer. It's the same disease that once destroyed giants like Nokia, Blackberry, and Kodak. It's the same disease that turned IBM, once a leading tech giant, into now an insignificant player that nobody talks about. In this video, we'll see what exactly is the disease, why it happened, and whether there is a cure for it. Subscribe to Don Unicorns if you are interested in startups, entrepreneurship, and business. Today, Apple is the second biggest company in the world by market capitalization. In profits, it is the fourth biggest company. Even today, Apple is the world's most valuable brand. People literally stand in long queues and fight among themselves just to buy an iPhone. So everything seems perfectly fine from the outside, right? Exactly. And that's what makes it dangerous. Because when everything looks fine from the outside, that's when a silent killer does its work. Now first, what is the single biggest reason behind Apple's massive success? The simple answer is Steve Jobs. Now I am going to show you something that will blow your mind. Let's see how Apple actually makes money. In the fiscal year 2025, Apple made a total revenue of $416 billion. Out of that, 50.4% came just from the iPhone, which means the iPhone is Apple's trump card. And 26.2% of the revenue came from services. Now what are the services? All of the software-based products inside your iPhone or iPad, the App Store, the Safari browser, iCloud, Apple Music, Apple Care, and many others. Apple makes money from all these digital services combined, and together this is called the services segment. Then comes the Mac, which contributes 8.1% of the revenue. That includes both desktops and laptops. Next is the iPad, which adds 6.7%. So if you add up the iPhone plus services plus Mac plus iPad, they make up 91% of Apple's total revenue. But here's the catch. Without Steve Jobs, none of these would exist. Which means, without Steve Jobs, Apple wouldn't have that 91% revenue. Now the remaining 9% of Apple's revenue mostly comes from Apple Watch, AirPods, Beats, and a few other products. And these products were created after Apple came under Tim Cook's leadership. The thing is, Steve Jobs died in 2011 and Tim Cook has been the CEO ever since. So even after 15 years under Tim Cook's leadership, 91% of Apple's revenue still comes from Steve Jobs era products. And only 9% comes from what Tim Cook created. This is the disease I am talking about, and that silent killer has a name, the innovator's dilemma. And the biggest symptom of this disease is this: depending too much on old innovations and old products. You will understand this disease even more clearly as we go further, so stay tuned. To understand why and how Apple is in trouble today, we should first understand how Apple became such a successful company in the first place. The secret behind Apple's success is Steve Jobs' philosophy. So what is the philosophy of Steve Jobs? At the first place, you have to think different, which means you have to think better than anyone else. You have to be a rebel, not a blind follower of rules. Next, you have to change the world. Steve Jobs used to say that you have to put a dent in the universe. Your vision should be so powerful that it can truly change how the world works. Small and safe ideas won't change anything. Before Apple, computers were only made for big companies, and they were huge machines ordinary people could not use. But it was Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak who built the personal computer and made it a mass computer that anyone could keep at home. Once computers reached people's hands, it transformed how they worked, created, and lived. So personal computer literally changed the world. Steve Jobs used to say that a computer is a bicycle for the mind. So technology should empower humanity according to him. But to put technology in people's hands, you need to build great products. Even if the technology is brilliant, if it's not designed and built well for a common man, it won't create impact. For that, Steve Jobs single-handedly focused on one thing, that is customer experience. Does the product truly make people's lives better? Is it easy and enjoyable to use? Does it empower the user? When Steve Jobs launched the iPhone, existing phones from Motorola, Nokia, and Blackberry had a huge flaw. Small screens and uncomfortable plastic keyboards. So they were not easy to use, and also you can't use many apps with the keyboard, or you can't play games well with the keyboard. So Jobs removed the keyboard entirely and created a full touchscreen phone. Comfortable, elegant, and powerful. That's how he thought. Always building what's best for the customer, not what's easiest for the company. But to deliver the best customer experience, you have to employ simplicity and focus. You can't do 10 things well at once. You have to focus on few things to do them insanely well. For example, in 1985, Steve Jobs was removed from Apple. In the 10 years after he was gone, Apple started building too many products. A dozen Mac models, printers, servers, digital cameras, so you name it. And by 1997, Apple was on the brink of bankruptcy. The only thing that could save Apple was bringing Steve Jobs again. And that's what they did. When Steve Jobs returned, the first thing he did was cut 70% of Apple's product line. He stopped doing everything that was average, and he focused on a few things to make them the best in the world. The final philosophical tenet of Steve Jobs is, stay hungry, stay foolish. Even after success, Jobs believed you should never say enough. You have to stay hungry. You have to stay foolish, which means you should never be afraid to try new things, even if you might fail. So this is the philosophy that operated until Steve Jobs was running Apple. After the passing away of Steve Jobs, Tim Cook became the CEO of Apple. It's been 15 years now. But under Tim Cook's leadership, there hasn't been a single big breakthrough product so far. Yes, he launched Apple Watch and AirPods, and they were somewhat successful, but even if you combine all those products, they contribute only around 10% of Apple's total revenue. And none of them carry that think different DNA. Smartwatches already existed before Apple Watch, same with wireless earphones before AirPods. And then in 2014, Apple started working on a new project, the Apple Car. They worked on it for 10 years, they spent $10 billion, and finally, they cancelled the project. Why? Because they never had clarity on why they were building it. There was no mission or vision. They just wanted to enter the car industry. And they just want to use the Apple brand to sell the cars, not to solve a real problem or empower people through technology. And then in 2024, Apple launched the Vision Pro, a spatial computing headset, and it was a huge flop. Apple is currently retreating on Vision Pro. Manufacturing halted, advertising budget slashed by 90%, and the sales figures are abysmal. The question is why? It's the same thing again. Even Apple itself didn't know how that product empowers people. It wasn't built to solve a problem. It was built to show off a new gadget. And if you wear that Vision Pro headset for even 1 or 2 hours, you will actually feel discomfort instead of feeling good. They tried to improve it by making some incremental changes, but still that didn't fundamentally change anything. And also, it looks weird to wear such a bulky device on your face. The social penalty is quite high, and then it is priced more than $3,000. So naturally, there is no demand for the product. You can clearly see Apple today is doing the exact opposite of Steve Jobs' philosophy. And then simplicity and focus is now absolutely gone. Remember, as I said before, when Steve Jobs returned to Apple, he cut down 70% of products and focused only on the remaining 30%. That's how Apple became legendary again. Now they have fallen into the same trap once more. Just look at the iPhone lineup today: iPhone 17, iPhone 17 Pro, iPhone 17 Pro Max, iPhone Air. Instead of trying to do new breakthrough innovation, they are doing tiny tweaks on iPhone to sell multiple versions of the same product at different prices. This is actually a strategy to incrementally increase the bottom line of the company. But if they focused all that effort on building a new breakthrough innovation, they would make far more profits and, more importantly, far more respect. Next comes the elephant in the room: artificial intelligence. If you look around, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, Microsoft, Elon's XAI, and even Meta, all these companies are aggressively pushing themselves to win the AI race. But Apple, on the other hand, seems to have literally surrendered its ambition. First they partnered with OpenAI, and now Apple AI is just Google AI, which means Apple has literally given up on AI by outsourcing it to others. Even the iconic Siri in iPhone is now powered by Google Gemini. Under Steve Jobs, Apple used to be a leader with a mission to change the world. Now, while other companies are trying to change the world through AI, Apple is acting like a follower, depending on others instead of leading innovation. There is no vision anymore. They are no longer behaving like a technology company that builds new things to empower people. They have become a business company that just uses existing products to maximize profits. They become very comfortable, satisfied with small upgrades and easy profits. Of course, Tim Cook deserves a huge applause for scaling Apple globally, earning huge revenues and profits from the products that Steve Jobs created, but he did not build anything fundamentally new and revolutionary. That is Tim Cook's biggest failure. If Apple doesn't change fast, it could face the same fate as the giants of the past. To escape this disease, Apple must reignite Steve Jobs' philosophy. Think better and different than anyone else, aim to change the world, empower people through technology, build truly great products, design with customer experience in mind, maintain simplicity and focus, and finally, stay hungry, stay foolish.